Seems like we've just done this.
Yes, it does. So we're expecting more people.
We're expecting John, I believe, and our newest member, Martin,
Okay.
which, oh, John is here. I need to transfer him over. He logged in as an attendee. He's coming. You do have a quorum, Kayla. You can start if you'd like.
Okay. But we need the new guy for the next application.
Warpus, correct. So we can,
Okay. Well, 7:02. Well, we can start,
You could
and
skip.
that's
you
true.
can always rearrange, yeah.
Okay, we've got plenty to choose from.
Yes, we do.
As usual.
Yes, we do.
All right. Well, I would like to open up the Madison Inland Wetlands Agency special meeting of March 10th, 2022 at 7:02 p.m. We have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have several regular meeting items. So we can start with application 21-36, 1 River Edge Farm Road. And just to check, do we need to vote on this tonight, I think?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, we don't need to, but we should.
okay.
And excuse me, Madam Chair, just to let you know that our new Commissioner Martin Brogy is here
Oh, excellent.
joining us.
Oh,
Great.
sorry, I just.
Martin,
have a
can you
brand
hear
new
us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, welcome.
I have a brand new computer. I guess my camera is not set up yet. So I apologize.
Well, nice to meet you. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Be fun. Okay, do we have anybody from are the applicants here?
Yes, thank you. I believe that is Lynn.
That's-
Yep, I
Lynn,
will
yeah.
transfer Lynn over here so she can explain. Lynn, are you there?
Muted. Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi. Great. So as I recall from our last meeting, and I think it was in January, I think we skipped this, right? In February?
Yeah.
We had some questions about I don't think any fill, but kind of the orientation of the buildings. And you were explaining that, but I could have this wrong. I thought you were going to change it a little from what you had on the plan. Is that wrong or is that right?
I think you needed some topography information.
Right.
Definitely topography.
So I can screen share the updated plans that the applicant submitted, if that's helpful.
That would be
So
great.
you can see we have some new information here.
Now we're talking.
There you go.
Okay, that's great.
Is that easier to see? There you go. This is the wetland line.
Yeah.
Erosion controls here. And it's closest point to the new structure. Lynn, correct me if I'm wrong, this is all new, is
Yes.
35 feet.
And those things that look like dominoes from the patio to the property line, is that a wall?
That's
No.
erosion controls.
Erosion control.
Joe, silt fence, hay
Okay.
bales.
So-
So, okay,
So what's
pretty
the,
steep.
what's the line that says like FZ? FZ.
Flood zone.
Oh, okay. I'll stop asking questions now.
Oh, no.
That's
no,
okay.
Okay. Usually it's spelled out, but now I see it. Zone AE 12. Okay. So I think she's added everything we wanted. It became, it's gone from question mark and less vague to pretty specific.
Yeah. Are there, well, and this, thank you. This it makes it much easier to see what you'd like to do. Does anybody have questions? Concerns?
No, I think they're doing their best to protect from erosion. It's an expansion of the house that really isn't going toward the wetlands. And since it is a large wetland, I thought we did our due diligence to get more details. So I thank our applicant for doing so.
Thank you.
This is Martin Brogy. I have just one question. So I'm wondering if this will be going to P and Z or if just our approval will send it right over to the building department. And if the building department is going to sign off on this, will they make sure erosion controls in place before construction starts? Like who's going to make sure that the erosion control is set up? So I just want to check in on that.
Yeah,
That's John's job.
Yeah,
Yep.
John Delore does that.
Super.
So, yeah, Martin, just to clarify our process, and John can confirm, there is a zoning, a certificate of zoning compliance that is required for an addition prior to the issuance of any building permits. And as the inland wetland officer, that John is in acting capacity still for quite some time here, the commission it is within your purview to include conditions on your approval, such as installation of erosion controls prior to any construction activities, and also to have the applicant contact the ZEO for an inspection of those prior to any work. So that those are all things that you can enforce as part of your permit process.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's probably the most important part of this whole proposed project. I mean, like, Joe said, it's part of, it's integrated with an existing house, and I think erosion control, given the slopes especially, are really important. So maybe we can fold that into our any motions tonight.
I actually had one question from a staff level that John and I had just mentioned this afternoon. And Lynn, maybe you can answer this. Do you have existing roof leaders or gutters on the house, or are you proposing those on this addition? And if so, where will those be outletting?
So we do have existing gutters, and I'm sure the new addition will have whatever gutters or leaders you all think we should definitely have to, mitigate any water drainage.
We just couldn't tell. I mean, that would be relevant to the agency if perhaps you were extending those roof leaders, to directly discharge at the wetland, and you have a PVC outlet pipe already on that slope. And so I just didn't know if that was for leaders or a footing drain, or if you were proposing any type of pipes like that.
No, to my knowledge, no one has mentioned that. So I don't think we'll add to that at all. Just your normal everyday gutters is what I thought we would have.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for the applicant?
I move we approve application 21-36, 1 River Edge Farm Road, with the condition that the erosion control measures shown on the drawings are implemented before construction.
I'll second it.
All right, any discussion? Or any modification of the motion?
No, nothing to add from me.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Raise your hand or say aye.
I'm from Martin Brogy.
Any opposed, abstaining? Okay. Thank you.
Thank
and
you.
Good luck with it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so Joe is going to take over for 22-01 Warpus Road. And I will.
Oh, okay. This is the land use.
This is the
land
Madison-
trust.
The land
Okay.
trust, and they should have updated you should have updated materials.
Okay, let's hope so. So
So,
at this time, we're going to move on to application 2201, which, is that correct? Oh, did they have an application before? Or is this a newer number? Because I thought they were a 21.
There was one application, Joe, that was withdrawn and then it was reapplied
Okay,
after plans were a little more detailed.
okay, thanks. Thanks,
Um,
Aaron. Yep.
Sure. I'm not sure if I have everybody. I've been transferring over quite a bit. You have quite a team here. Ben or David, if there's anybody else, please let me know.
So application 22-01 Warpus Road, a property owned by the Madison Land Conservation Trust. This permit application is for a regulated activity to construct a stone aggregate surfaced access driveway and trailhead parking lot located partially in an upland review area of an inland wetland. We last discussed this application in February, and I remember it was presented, and then questions came out and details came out that there was a lot more going on than what was kind of proposed with regards to an extensive clearing. So tonight, let's hear the application as it is now presented. Is the applicant here?
Yeah, that would be me. Hi, I'm Ben Diebold, President of Land Trusts, and I'll just sort of be introducing our application.
Mhm.
I guess first I want to apologize on a couple of fronts. First, that our application last month was incomplete. I appreciate your time, and we certainly don't want to waste it. I also want to apologize for the circumstances that surround the application, which, as Joe mentioned, does involve cutting by land trust volunteers in unpermitted cutting in a regulated area in the wetland review zone. So we're, sorry for those circumstances. It's embarrassing to the trust. It's kind of a black eye for us. And we're going to try to move forward in a positive way from it and make it a learning opportunity. It's certainly been one that we've been working with extensively with our stewardship team. Opportunity to teach them and teach us how to, conduct these activities in the wetland review zones, coordinate our activities among groups of volunteers. And that is what happened. I mean, we had multiple teams of volunteers at the site, and one team was laying out plans for the parking area, and another team was engaged in trail clearing and cutting, and just some wires were crossed, there was miscommunication, and the clearing team interpreted the flags as a spot to go clear, and that was obviously not the case. So we're sorry about that. We've been trying to address it in a number of ways. We held a community forum at the site in February after the meeting, and we had between 50 and 60 neighbors show up. We advertised that on social media and in the paper. We identified all the houses closest to it, and we placed flyers, 200 flyers in the 200 houses closest to the Bowery Woods Forest in their mailboxes individually. And then I prepared individualized letters with my personal cell phone to the neighbors most directly affected on Warpus Road, inviting them to contact me with any concerns or issues they might have about this activity. And then we had a direct conversation with the neighbor directly across the road who had called the town about this issue, and we had a very productive conversation. He hadn't been aware that it was trust activity or a trust project, and is very supportive of what we're doing. And I think we'll have a very good relationship going forward. And we committed to him that we'll work with him on, his agreement with some of our landscaping plans for the entrance to the parking area. So I think we'll have a very positive relationship there going forward. So we've done all that. So what you see, I don't know, I guess you have the thing, but I can share our updated plan if that's useful.
Sure, I could share, or you can do it, Ben. Either ways, however you're comfortable.
Is that working for you guys? Okay, so what you see, I mean, and Mike Ott is here to answer any technical questions. I'm not an engineer. I'm just another land trust volunteer, basically. But what we're planning is an 8-car parking area with a gravel pavement, a silt fence on the left side, blocking any construction flow into the wetland area. You can see the dashed blue line is the wetland review line, and the solid blue line to the left is the wetland line. The plantings at the top. So one difference from the plan last month that was talked about is that in this case, there is no plan for remediation, because it turns out that the scope of cutting was maybe not quite as extreme as we had feared. And in fact, all the cutting that took place is within the area encompassed by our plan. So the plan, if approved, would obviate the need for any separate remediation plan. And I do have a catalog of everything that was cut, if that's of interest to the commission. But our planting, which is not extensive, but is indicated on the map here, is a series of high bush blueberry, viburnum, winterberry, and I think one other, which is designed by Bob Kukta. You may be familiar with some of his work in the past. And so we will be, just working to make the area, plant native Rs and address any planting or landscaping issues that arise. I think that's basically all I have for the commission at this point. Are there any questions?
Maybe this is Lee, maybe this is a stupid question. I can't see the plantings that you're talking about.
It's all
on the
those
drawing.
circles, the circles that are at the entrance near Warpus Road.
Oh, okay.
So the large circles are the thicker diameter plantings, which I think are white pine. Is that right, Bob? I mean,
Yes,
and
that's
then
correct.
the smaller circles are the series of high bush blueberry, viburnum,
I see. Okay, thank you.
winterberry.
Ben, maybe you could zoom in a little bit and they could see it a little closer.
Oh, sure. How's that? Is that any better?
I
Sorry,
see.
I'm getting these weird
Okay,
things, yeah.
yep.
The white pines, Lee, on each side are to create a bit of screening from the neighbor from across the street. That was one of his concerns, that he not be able to see the cars when they're parked back there. And then the pines are underplanted to give a density of ground cover and additional screening while the white pines are growing up.
That makes sense.
And they're in the areas that, to the right or to the east of the silt fence. And that actually is the limit of the clearing that was done out in the field. When I was designing the plantings, none of the plantings are in the undisturbed or uncleared area. So that vegetation is still stable.
Okay. Thanks, Bob.
Now, if I remember right from the last month, I could have sworn someone was kind of shocked at the extent of clearing. So are you guys saying nothing has been cleared to the left of the proposed silt fence line?
That, in my opinion, that's correct.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't been out there. John, you've been out there though. Is that what you understand too, John Delore?
Yeah, I agree with Bob. I think that's right. They've moved the parking. It looks like it's further north, if you will, from Warpus, from the
Okay.
original ones that I saw. And I think they cleared back to where the parking spaces are now, which looked like it was, a little bit more than they needed to be. But it looks like they've designed, with that in mind. So, I think that's kind of what they've accomplished. I think I agree with that they're no more west than Bob's showing on that with the silt fence.
Okay.
Martin Brogy here. I have a question. I think there's a note on the plan that says that the wetland limit was done. I think it was Richard Snarsky.
Correct.
Okay, and it says that the wetland limit is approximate. I didn't see any wetland flags enumerated on the plan. And typically, maybe, I don't know, and I have looked at the record. I didn't see a letter from the soil scientist indicating that the wetlands were delineated, or a note on the plan that said that the wetlands shown are substantially correct in accordance with the previous delineation. Was any of that previous delineation documented in the record.
And
And,
I think there is included in the file Richard Snarsky's mapping. It may be with the original application, which was submitted in December. It may not have been
Okay.
transferred over to this file.
okay. And sort of following up to that, is that the blue line there, that's the approximate wetland line? Do you know the source of that information? Do those 4 points represent wetland flags? I mean, how
Those
do
are
we know
wetland
that?
flags. Yeah,
Yes.
Those
wetland
are
flags,
Okay,
which we
all right.
measured at the site with tape. Yeah.
Martin, if you
I'm
see
sorry?
if you see the 100-foot inland wetland boundary review area, the the pointer of that arrow is at flag number 2. In the
Okay,
wetland flag. And then just above the word entrance is flag number 1. And then where it says sediment control, those are flags 3 and 4. And that's really
Awesome.
basically the limit of what Rich Snarsky had flagged, only because the area of clearing was about parallel to the west of that.
sure, that makes sense. So were those flags located by survey or GPS?
No.
Maybe Mike can help. Is Mike on there?
I think Mike Ott, for the record, I think they were located by GPS.
Okay. All right, thank you. A second question, the plantings, you mentioned high bush blueberry and a viburnum. I didn't catch which viburnum it was.
Viburnum dentatum,
That's arrowwood,
correct.
okay. And white pine. And what are the other species? Is there-
High bush blueberry, native high bush blueberry, Clethra ulnifolia.
Sweet pepper bush, okay.
And
So
then
I'm wondering
we
if
got-
if the still,
we
yeah,
also have
the-
winterberry.
okay, yes, the ilex, yeah.
That's the
So
fourth
those,
one.
yeah, okay, yeah, I love those shrubs. It's a great selection. Those are typically wetland shrubs, and they're being mated up with a white pine, which typically likes the soil pretty dry. So I'm trying to discern, how the selection of the shrubs came up. It's almost, it's sort of a wetland shrub design and an upland tree design.
Well, my
And,
experience with planting those particular shrubs in upland soils have also performed very well. So they have a
Okay, good.
very good soil tolerance for a range of soil moisture levels
Okay, excellent.
and
And are
shade,
those,
shade
okay.
and sun. So
Yeah, definitely shade. So is this, we don't have a formal landscaping plan, but so do we have, to me, I'm looking at this as sort of being like a mitigative effort, and it's nice. And so do we have a count on plants, and will there be a follow-up that they all survive and a monitoring plan or something like that that says, we install these wonderful plants and a year from now, they're all still going to be alive and so forth. And I was just wondering if there's considerations for replacement if they fail, et cetera.
well,
Those
there-
are all options for conditions also, Martin.
Sure.
Yeah, but that was
okay.
one of my questions too. I think I've been through the file. Is there at least a list of the plantings in the file, or?
I believe it's on the plan here, correct?
yes, if you zoom back out, it should be on the right-hand side of the plan.
Oh, okay,
Bottom.
okay. I said I
There-
could miss it, I guess.
It
Ben,
doesn't
if
have
you-
a number. Can you, well,
Well, it corresponds there.
but you can count them, yes.
Right, there are 3
Right,
of each
okay.
of 4 species. So there's 24 shrubs and 6 white pines, 3 on
Oh,
each
okay, I'm
side.
sorry, Bob, I missed it. Go
It's
on.
okay. It's down at the bottom.
I
under
see it now.
Planting key.
Okay, excellent.
So when do you hope to be finished with the project?
I don't know the answer to that. We'd love to be open in time for hiking season.
Now it's hiking season.
I-
Close.
Joe, I
So-
would think that the construction of the driveway and the parking areas would be done first, and then the plantings would be done after all the heavy grading is done.
Okay,
We wouldn't definitely put the plantings in before the road or the
Correct.
parking spaces. The
Yep.
ground itself is stable at this point, so there's no erosion currently. The topography there is very flat. There is actually a rise to the west, in all the root zone that's perfectly stable at this point and would catch any water even without the erosion controls being installed. But those would be put in before the gravel's put in.
yep. I want to ask for forgiveness for forgetting if it was said, the base of the parking area will be gravel.
Yes.
Okay,
That's right.
yep. Okay, so any other comments or questions from our board, our commission? So I want to thank the applicant for coming back with the plan that actually showed locations and clearing areas. It's a big improvement.
We appreciate your patience. Thank you for working with
Yep.
us.
Okay, so I guess at this time, if there's no more comments and it's not a public hearing, is there anyone who would like to make a motion to close out this application?
I
Or
move
should
that
say-
we
I should
approve.
say, so
What's that,
shall
Joe?
make a decision.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Okay,
I move we approve application 22-01 Warpus Road with the plantings as indicated on the new drawings.
I'll
thank you.
second.
Thanks, John. I'm going to just add as a condition, if for any reason the plantings fail, there's no need to come back here for a modification or any kind. Just consult with John and he'll oversee the replacements of any vegetation.
Okay.
Okay, so with a motion to approve and John's second, let's have a vote. All in favor to approve?
Aye.
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 Okay, sounds like it's 1, 2, 3, 4-0 approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Conservation Trust.
Thank you, Inland Wetland. We appreciate your patience.
Remember, we're on your team too.
Thank you.
Good seeing you, Bob.
Yep, you'll probably see me out there planting these shrubs and trees.
This could be a
Tell-
Mad for Trees effort, Bob.
Well, yes and no. Maybe the pine trees. We're not buying shrubs, Aaron. But I think I might have a source of white pines from our collection that we have, yes. They're on order already.
Excellent.
It looks like, Bob, you could find a pine tree beyond the parking area. Transplant it.
No, I'm using container grown so that the root system is going to survive very well. And
Okay,
yeah, I probably could transplant a few small ones and fill it in, but
okay, I'll start driving by in May and I'll look for you.
okay. It might be as early as April.
Oh, good.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right. So we're moving briskly along. We have application 22-03, 50 Pleasant View Avenue. We did a site walk for this. For those of you who were there, this is a very flat lot with house, I guess, in front. You can see we've got the house in back, and there's a wetland in back that has been delineated. And Mike took us through on that site walk. So, do you guys need review? Do you want Mike to say a few words? Refresher, happy? Yes. Aaron's nodding yes, so go ahead, Mike.
Especially since-
Thank,
yeah.
thank you. We did, I'll just say a few. We did, Mike Ott, for the record, licensed professional engineer, land surveyor with Summerhill Civil Engineers, with an office on Wall Street in Madison. We did submit a revised plan, and Aaron, do you want me to show that?
Sure. If you have it
wanna
ready.
do it? You want me to do it? Okay. Bear with me one sec.
If, otherwise I'll,
Okay.
oh, good, that's fast.
Can the agency see that, my screen now?
Yes.
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 So the only revision we made, since you saw this is, or since we had the site walk, was we added this gray shaded area. And that indicates a no-mow meadow seed mixture. So this whole area, beyond the sediment control barrier will be seeded. And that was the area, if you remember, that had no, as I recall anyway, it had no tree stumps in it, if you remember, and it had no wood chips on the ground surface. If there were tree stumps, now that I think about it, they might have been old ones, and they might have been up along this fence line. But definitely this area was not covered in wood chips, if you recall. So it's just outside the limits of our, just at the limit of the proposed activity, the most northerly limit to construct, which would be to construct the septic system that'll serve the residents. And that's really the only change that we've made.
So the plan, Mike, in the gray shaded area is to remove all that scraggy vegetation that we saw down in that basin, get it all out of there, rake it all up, and then add the no-mow mix for a new lawn.
Except within the wetland. If you remember,
Correct.
the wetland is a depression.
Yep.
I didn't show it. I tried to have a conversation with Rich Snarsky, but we weren't able to connect before tonight. But I did not know if I should show it within the wetlands. I'm guessing it might be okay given the nature of this wetland, but I think Rich ought to advise us on that. So I just showed it outside of the wetland.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a wetland, so you shouldn't go in there and rake it or do anything. And I don't know if are you thinking that he might suggest different plantings for the wetland proper?
I don't know, Kayla. Honestly, I was thinking he actually might want us to seed it, because if you recall, that wetland, the vegetation in that wetland is no different than the vegetation outside of it. It's simply as you probably saw, it's simply a depression. There's maintained lawn all around it on the neighboring properties, right up to the fence line. But I didn't want to do that without his recommendation. So as we've presented it, we won't go into the wetland at all, the wetland area at all.
Okay.
I suppose if he thinks we should, he could, we could have a conversation with John about it. But
Yeah, I mean, seeding a wetland. I guess I don't know what exactly the no-mow mix is. Is it? But it doesn't sound like it's wetland. Is it wetland friendly plants?
according to Rich, yeah. But it doesn't, I don't think it matters. We're not, as you can see, we're not proposing to go in there.
And are you going to have any outside of the vegetation itself? Is there going to be any delineation to show that that is an area that is no mow? Because it's good to have it here, but when you have someone in a house and they see this nice flat lawn and this little dip that is wetland, but could be disguised part of the year as not a wetland. Without any proper delineation, it might be easy for it to be mowed or otherwise taken over.
Right. So we talked about that. If the agency would like to condition this somehow, that somehow it be delineated, we'd be glad to do that.
Okay.
So I've seen Rich Snarsky in the past work with the applicant, and there was one particular property with a wetland that needed some work. So what happened was the Wetland Commission did allow for the wetland to be opened up and cleared of overgrowth, and then as part of a replanting plan within the wetland, and it wasn't eliminated, it wasn't allowed to be grass, but Rich Snarsky literally was in there with, I think, his wife, putting plugs in of wetland plants, and it came out to be a pretty attractive wetland. Had some tidal influence with it, and I think this wetland, which does not look very nice, could become something that, similar to the property in Essex, I think with Rich's help, they could make this a nice little vibrant wetland with plantings. I'm just afraid of it becoming something with no mow that is now going to be a place for activity. But if they made it a nice vegetated area, it would be more of something to look at and enjoy instead of just eliminating.
Other comments or questions from the agency members?
Do we have to vote on this tonight?
I believe so.
I think so.
Or you would need an extension.
I would favor if we do vote to approve, because I don't think it's a major activity within the upland review area. Obviously the septic system, but now knowing that they want to totally change the landscape of to the north around the wetland, I would definitely favor the no mow grass where they're showing it, but I think they should make that wetland area something attractive with plantings instead of just having it blend with the entire lawn and be forgotten. So I would condition that the wetland area be kept a vibrant wetland area with plantings. To be
Excuse me.
overseen by John.
This is Martin Brogy. I have a comment here, and I think that's I agree with you, Joe. I'm wondering again, do we have anything from the delineating soil scientist as to the nature of the delineation? Do we have a soil scientist report that describes this wetland from a soil vegetation hydrology standpoint, or even functions and values? Is there any additional information that we have on this wetland? That's my first question. And because it seems as though there's quite a bit of activity looming in and around the wetland, and it's difficult to determine whether or not it would have any significant impact on the functions and values of the existing wetland without really understanding, the specific nature. I don't have the knowledge of the site walk that you folks have, so I rely on you for that. It sounds like the vegetative differences between the upland and the wetland were not very significant. I'm curious whether or not there was any evidence of standing water there. I mean, could this be a vernal pool? I mean, does it have any potential significant functions or values, number one? And two, I think that as a matter of course, in approving a application and considering some mitigative plantings, I think we really need to see something on paper so the town can hold it in its hand when it comes out to do an inspection and says, yes, we decided to use this seed mix and we decided to install these shrubs and so forth. But I think we really need to hear from the soil scientist to determine, what kind of wetland this is and think about his recommendations for, the environment. And certainly if it's lawn and it's getting seeded and then mowed, and it may just get smaller and smaller until it disappears 20 years from now. So again, I don't know what kind of a resource it is, and you know, how much attention it's really worth. And I think hearing some details from Mr. Snarsky would be really valuable in terms of the decision making.
Mike, did he write a report? I can't remember. I didn't see one in the file, I don't think.
No, he did not.
Before the site walk, was this in front of us, or did we do the site walk first and now we're talking about it? Because I don't remember this one.
So
Yeah,
go ahead.
you saw this as part of you saw a year or two ago when the subdivision application was submitted, you saw this.
Okay, it
It's a
rings a bell a
subdivision.
long time ago.
Right, as a subdivision referral. I think it was, I can't remember if we made a presentation before the walk or if you just received it.
I think
We
we're
just- We just received it.
I think.
Yeah, and then of course you saw it on the walk. So Rich.
So we don't
The
we don't have to
applicant,
close
the
it
owner
tonight.
doesn't have any issues with delineating somehow the difference between the maintained lawn and the no meadow limits. That makes sense, and I know they don't have an issue with it. That's why I mentioned that we discussed it. But Rich Narcy's not here tonight. All I can tell you is what he's told me, and you've seen this. This is simply a depression. There is maintained lawn on all the adjoining properties that you can see on the drawing. There's even in the spring and early, you know, in summer, according to Rich, this has a very low function and values. It's just simply a depression in topography. It's not a vernal pool, according to Rich Snarsky. It does have standing water at times. In fact, if you remember when we were on the site walk, there was evidence of that. There was a kind of a small, probably, you know, this lowest contour. If you recall, there was an area that looked like it was wet. It was a little bit icy, if I remember that day. It was cold, you know, cold that day. So it'd be, you know, if you'd like to condition it such that we provide some means to delineate the difference between the maintained lawn and the no-mow area, I think that's great. And I'd like to ask that you actually act on it this evening if you could.
I'll just share with Martin, when the commission had a site walk out there, I've been dealing with wetland items since 2010, and I had a hard time actually believing there was a wetland down there. It slightly slopes down from the septic proposed area, and it was all scraggy. I literally I couldn't even be sure there was a wetland down there. And so I don't believe functionally it does much, except maybe is a place for some kind of wildlife to go briefly and then leave. I don't think anything significant lives there.
Well, I guess what I would say, Joe, is having worked on ponds in Madison for the past 15 years, is that there aren't a lot of wetlands south of Route 1 because it's so densely populated. So every time we decide, you know, every time people want to do this development and say, well, it's scraggly and it's depression and it doesn't have any value, you know, that just chips away at the remaining wetlands that are there. I haven't been out there recently, but it could have peepers, because peepers like that, it could have toads, and we don't, without look, you know, we don't have a soil report, as Martin said, you know, so we don't know what function it actually is serving there. So I wouldn't necessarily write it off. It could be not super high value, depending on how you assess those values.
Yep. Well, that was just my impression, but I definitely earlier said I hate to see it have grass in it, and it should be preserved and be enhanced as a wetland with plantings. So I'm definitely not in favor of it being eliminated.
Right. And yeah, and right. And the idea that, it would just get seeded the same as this no mow area, I don't think is a great idea.
Well, this is the first night we've really heard the application. Don't we have at least 2 meetings to go over these things?
I think we do actually. Is that right, Aaron? Because we receive them and then we have the two.
65 days to act on
65
an
days.
application from receipt.
Hmm.
I believe it was received at your last meeting.
Right, because we
Yeah,
scheduled.
so
that one.
I know this doesn't sound like something that you want to do, Mike, but I think, to me, I'm with Kayla and Martin on this, and I think at least we need something from sort of Rich, Sarnat. I'm getting from
Snarsky.
Rich to Snarski to, give us more detail about the wetland and have his ideas on what needs to be done to ensure that it's there in 10 years, so.
Yep. Especially when the entire upland review area is being disturbed. I guess it is pretty wise to get something in writing from Richard.
This is Martin Broggie again. I'm curious too. Unfortunately, my new computer, the resolution is not as good as my other one. My Google Earth is almost useless zooming in, but using my phone, I can look, at this location, and it looks like that there were, trees, west of Pleasant Valley behind the house, that long rectangular house, to the east. And then, south of the houses behind Neck Road and east of the houses behind Twin Coves, in this whole area, there was behind all those houses, it looks like mature trees. I don't know exactly the date of, my phone aerial view, but when was the commission out there, and did it look like that there had been some clearing done? Or I don't understand why it's all scrub shrub, because it was forested not too long ago, or there was mature vegetation through this entire area. And now we're talking about it being lawn. I think that's a bit of a
It was cut. It's been cut and wood chipped.
Oh,
Especially, Martin, in the area where the proposed house driveway is, that big area behind the house and where the septic is, all clear cut and wood chipped by I think a previous owner. So
and I assume probably without permits in terms of wetlands anyway.
correct.
Okay. All right. That's good. That's it. Yeah.
So it sounds like the commission is looking to ask for a report from Mr. Snarsky, Mike.
And I would add that, some measures to, preserve and enhance what remaining wetland is there, something to provide shade. If this thing apparently does have standing water in it, even on a seasonal basis, it could provide, as Kaloa said, peepers, habitat, amphibians. I mean, it's important habitat potentially, and it looks like it was pretty mature and forested, and it was surrounded by shade at some point. And I think that it would be prudent to look to see what Mr. Snarsky would say about, some kind of restoration and protection of the area moving forward.
Any other comments from the agency? All right. All right, Mike. Sorry, we're not acting on this in the way that I think you'd hoped. But hopefully you have a sense of what the agency is looking for with respect to delineating the wetland, understanding more about the wetland function and values, and keeping that wetland a wetland regardless of, its depressional state.
Yep. Yeah, I'll talk with Rich Snarsky and we'll try to get him to attend the next meeting also.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
I think, Kayla, we should have a motion to table this to the next month's meeting.
Do we need to, even though we don't have to vote on it? I mean, that's fine.
Nope. I'll make a motion that we
I thought so.
continue application 22-03 to the April meeting of the Madison Wetland Commission.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we'll see you next month.
Thank you.
I think in the past, when we had, so this is a newer system, we would receive and talk on the first night and then just move ahead. But it's good to be dotting our I's and crossing our T's. Okay, our next application is 22-04, 301 Boston Post Road. Some of us were also on this sidewalk. This is the one next to the Neck River. And they're proposing, there's a future proposed house, and they're proposing a smaller structure for this current application.
One of the things that I noted is that bridge over the Neck River appeared to be replaced. And I don't think we ever had a permit to replace that bridge.
Sometimes, John, people who replace like a span bridge and there's no real head wall changes. Actually, some people think that's not a regulated activity, but I don't know the details of the bridge replacement.
Well, we were up there once before and that bridge was falling apart. And the applicant didn't follow through on the request. But this bridge definitely was replaced, and I don't believe we ever had a permit to replace it.
Okay. That was my first visit back there. So I
Yeah, I
had,
don't remember ever being back there either.
okay. So Mr. Mandel, did you want to do a brief overview, especially since we have a new member to our...
Sure, absolutely. Erin, do you want to share the screen with the plan? I'll just go over it briefly.
Let me get it for you, Chuck.
Yeah, this site has been reviewed many times over the years, and John alluded to that. This has been approved, and at the approvals have lapsed, and we've come back and forth through the years. We did have, in regards to the actual, when the bridge was repaired, I do not have any knowledge of when it was done. We did have a structural engineer go out there, Charles Brown from Gibble and Norton. He did go out there prior to the owners buying that during the due diligence period. So it is structurally sound. It can support H20 loads. So briefly, most of what you see on here, the main house, driveway and turnaround, that was previously approved. Tonight's application is strictly for the 2-bedroom house. It's about 62 feet away from a finger of wetlands. That's really not part of the Neck River. It's in the floodway, but it's not part of Neck River. There's no direct attachment. This site was an old ice house, and I don't even, maybe some of the members might know, I don't know if they've ever seen it in use, but there was an existing foundation, and it appeared that there had been some site work done through the years. It hadn't been touched for many years, but there was quite a bit of disturbed areas that have subsequently grown in and left to their natural state. The wetlands were flagged by Bob Russo and Rich Snarsky. Like I said, through the years, they've been flagged and reflagged. It's an 800 square foot two-family house. We're going to be sharing the septic system with the main house. So we did get approvals from local health department, and since it's a central system, it has to go before the state, and we did get the approvals for the central system. So the septic leach fields are going to be shared, and those are further to the north, and those are outside the review area. During the site walk, I mean, we had a tank next to the house, but it had been revised, and we're just going to put the tank and pump chamber right next to the house. The disturbed areas will be just what you see on there along the silt fence. They were not planning any other disturbance outside that area. And that's basically it. Like I said, I know the boundary was approved many years ago by other agencies, and I think that's pretty much it. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer it.
Does anybody have any questions for the applicant?
There's also just one more thing, Kealoha. There is a power line that runs through there. The transmission lines run for quite a distance. They run parallel to Route 1. There are no formal easements in there, but I believe the power company does come in there occasionally to do their standard clearing.
That's right. We talked about that, I think.
Right. Some of these older power lines had no easements, and Eversource is trying to clean those up now. So sometimes whenever there's some activity, they try to grab an easement when they can, but the landowner is certainly under no obligation to do so.
This is Martin Brogy. I just have one question. You said that the wetlands as shown on this map, these are Bob Russo's delineation, or are they?
Yes, no, Bob Russo had done that.
Okay, is his name on the plan here? I'm just kind of scanning around for it.
Nope, not on this one.
Okay.
I believe it may have been on it. It may have been on an earlier one, but I can certainly get his signature and name on the final plan.
Super. Did he write any kind of a soil scientist report at all about the
not
vegetation?
for this particular application. Like I said earlier on, that this has been, it's in the file. It's been many times. It's been looked at.
Okay.
So there is a report on file for this, this property.
All right. Super. Yeah. I think that would be good to do, to get his signature on there.
Absolutely.
With any plan before us, I think we need to see the soil scientist's signature and or report.
Yep. As I said, this is a ancillary to the main application that had been previously approved. So it's really just that 800 square foot structure is the addition to that.
I think the site walk answered a lot of questions, and there's not going to be a lot of earth disturbance, since a lot of the areas are flat and have pre-existing foundational areas. So.
Other questions or comments? I guess, well, I'll just add one. I think it's great, and it seems to be called out on the plans that there won't be any removal or any vegetation being disturbed past what you've shown on the plan. Just because you're so, the whole area is pretty close to different parts of the Neck River wetland area. All right. Anybody else? All right. Would someone like to make a motion for this application?
Now, first, my question. Oh, no. So I know this plan's been in front of us before, but the application number looks new. This is its second time in front of us, Aaron and John. Like, it's been received?
Yes, this has already been received.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was received at the last meeting, and then you did the walk, and this is the second.
All right, then I'll make a motion that the commission approve application 22-04 for 301 Boston Post Road as presented.
I think we need to add the condition, put the soil scientist's name on the drawings as well.
Yeah, so we need a second. I'll second Joe's motion. And then, yes, I do think we need the condition to put the soil scientist's name on the documents. Other discussion, conditions? Okay. All in favor of approving as conditioned? Raise your hand. Say aye.
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 Excellent. Looks like it's unanimous.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay, so now we have our last three applications, again, from our sidewalk, 22-06 Wildwood, 22-07, 22-08. We can decide how to talk about them, but as you have seen from the plans, hopefully you guys got to pick up your big giant plans. I have mine right here.
I got mine.
Should
you
we
know, it's a pretty
hear them
integrated
all like
project.
concurrently?
Yeah,
instead of one at a time?
I think each one probably has different issues or different things you might want to talk about. So I guess we can refer to them by lot number as we discuss. So we have the Mr. Galligan, and we have other engineers and the owner.
Could we allow Chris Ozick to attend also? I think he's thank you.
All right. So this is, as with our other applications tonight, it's been received. And this is our first kind of discussion of these three applications. We saw the subdivision, I guess that was 2021, but this is our new and different. I guess, should we have a brief overview? I guess that would be helpful, especially for our new member. So I don't know who would like to do a brief overview of this project. Okay, Mr. Galligan.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening. For the record, my name is Jim Galligan. I'm with Nafis & Young. I'm a professional engineer registered in the state of Connecticut, and I represent Mr. Delaney and his wife in the application for the subdivision on Wildwood Avenue. For the benefit of Mr. Brogy, last fall, we presented an application to do a 3-lot subdivision on Wildwood Drive. Are you familiar with where Wildwood Drive is?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
At the very bottom of Wildwood Drive, there's a small, it's called Sheep Pasture Road for a reason. There's a small cart path type road that runs off of the side of Wildwood Drive, and several hundred yards into Sheep Pasture Road, there's a frontage of land that we're going to subdivide or proposing to subdivide. We did secure approval from the Inland Wetlands Commission for the original subdivision. The subdivision was for three lots. All 3 lots are being accessed off of Sheep Pasture Road. 2 of the lots are being accessed over easement across the first lot to minimize the overall disturbance of the construction and to limit the activity adjacent to the wetlands. So the goal tonight for all 3 lots, but we'll start with lot 1. The goal tonight is really to to show that we're developing this lot and the others, in a manner that's consistent with what the Wetlands Commission approved this past fall. There have been a couple of changes. We did revise some of the lot lines, and we're going to be getting that approved through planning and zoning. Basically, what we did is we increased the size of lot 1 and increased the size of lot 3 and tried to get all 3 lots to be about the same size. Lot 1 was just barely zoning compliant. And now all 3 of the lots have a significant amount of acreage similar to each other. If you look at sheet number 3, and do you folks have access to the drawings?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Aaron, can you share up sheet number 3?
Well, so I can do the screen share.
That's great. Go ahead, Nick.
Okay.
Thank
All right.
you.
Yeah, Nick will do it. Thank you. Thanks, Nick.
Sorry, 1, 2. Yeah.
Okay, so you can see the 3 lots. The lot at the top is lot number 1, and was quite a bit smaller than the lot is now. If you look where the word iron pin is located on the northern property line, that was the end of the property, and it cut down to where Nick is showing that. What we did was added the additional property to the right of that, which was originally part of lot 2, and have revised the lots in that manner. Originally, lot 1. Let's go to let's go to up to sheet 4, Nick. Originally, this is the same lot. Originally, lot 1 was accessing directly out onto Sheep Pasture Road in that area right there. And with some discussion with Aaron and some discussion with the property owner, we've adjusted the driveway for lot 1 to access off of the common driveway that leads to lots 2 and 3. And that accomplishes a couple of things. That leaves the northern boundary of the property undisturbed. The common driveway was an area where it's being disturbed already. Access from off of the common driveway to the house makes more sense. It leaves the frontage all along Sheep Pasture Road is undisturbed, and all the vegetation can remain. There have been a couple of changes that we've made. As I mentioned, we just changed the location of the driveway. The house is basically in the same location as was approved by the commission for the subdivision. The septic system was shifted northerly just a little bit so that we could fit the pool in on the southern side of the property. The pool was farther east previously, but we shifted it a little bit to the west. The swale that runs between lots 1 and lot 2, when we first did the design for that, we had a very, very large swale in the concept plan because we did not want to come back with a swale that was larger than was approved by the Wetlands Commission previously. This swale is now significantly smaller, and it has a storm retention capability now on the southern end of the property. We also added a tree well. You want to expand this lot up a little bit, Nick?
Mm-hmm.
I want to get a little closer. We added a tree well. You can see where it's called out, proposed tree well. There is a significant tree there. We felt that in that area there, it was more prudent to put a tree well around the existing tree to preserve the vegetation. It's a large standing oak. It was, a pretty significant tree, so we are proposing to put a tree well around there. But while we're looking at this sheet here, you can see the red lines are the contour lines that are associated with the grading. The proposed ground of this, on this application, when we did the subdivision was elevation 49. As it is designed now, it's at elevation 48. It's not the difference is not something even a trained eye like mine would be able to tell the difference between 48 and 49. There's really no change to the grading in that area there. I think it's important to recognize that in all three of the applications, and I'll say this again in the second and the third lot, that the grading in this area, the red contours in this area, are exactly as was proposed during the subdivision. The only difference being that when we added that to the stormwater swale area there, we changed the grading there to fit the new swale, the final design of the swale. So there's no change on the east side of the parcel where the common driveway is. There's no change to that driveway location. We are proposing some significant landscaping. Our landscaping designer is here with us tonight, and I'll let him talk a little bit about the actual landscaping that is going to go on both on the side where the driveway is on the east and the slope that's going to be running on the west side, and the landscaping that is proposed to go between the lots 1 and 2. So Mike, why don't we have the landscaper speak?
Do we have the image of the landscape itself, or you want me just to?
I
think
don't believe I have that.
Yeah, I don't know, Mike, did you bring that to them?
I did, yeah, I forwarded on. Aaron, do you have a copy? Are you able to share it?
Okay, let me.
Thank you. I could get my 13-year-old to help me if you want.
No, I just,
He can help me.
I didn't have it out for you here.
While she's bringing this, the drawing up, I think it goes important to say that the goal was to try and maintain the development of this lot consistent with the approved lot in the subdivision plan. The changes that are significant are what we feel are environmental improvements. They limit the clearing along Sheep Pasture Road. There's some preservation of existing vegetation. I know the question will come up. Rich Snarski did do the wetlands. They were located by survey. He is noted on the plans. His company is noted on the plans. There was a soils report submitted with the application, with the original application. I think once we get to the landscaping, you'll see that we've done quite a bit more than what I'm going to call the average developer is doing regarding enhancing the buffer areas between the edges of the yards, or the edges of the lawns, and the upland review areas, because we're adding a lot of high and low vegetation. There's also a significant vegetation going between the lots to try and create some privacy separation and try and return some of the vegetation back. As you know, this property is being significantly graded to be able to create the lots. A lot of the grading is tied directly into the septic system design and the septic system elevations. It would have been nice to leave a lot of the backyards down low, closer to the existing grades, but the septic system requirements, the separation distances and so on from the bottom of the septic system to restrictive layers didn't permit that.
Excuse, Chris, you do have the ability to screen share if you have that on your screen and it's faster.
I don't have it on this computer.
Okay,
PDF to Mike.
the individual site development plans, I'm not showing the landscape plans for. So this was an overall, was this at the time of your, of the subdivision?
Yeah, what we had on the walk and the previous meetings.
Previous meetings, meaning the subdivision application?
I believe, I don't know.
I'm not sure I have that digital copy here.
Okay.
Aaron, I just emailed it to you. I don't know if that helps.
All right.
Sure.
Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
I think I remember they had landscaping shown on the subdivision when we were.
I recall
doing
at the time of
referral.
subdivision, yeah.
But not.
Okay. Hold on.
I'm really sorry. I should have double checked. When I had forwarded that over, I'd assumed that it would be added to the application.
Yeah. So anyways, we updated it for this plan and great. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
All right.
So lot number 1 is the lot on the right, and I'll let the landscape gentleman talk about what his plan is.
Right. So when you come in off the road, the idea was that the area on lot 1, most of that is native soils. The grading is going to stay in a native state, and there's existing trees there that we're retaining. Everything between the roadway and where the remnant wall is town property, and that will all stay as native plantings. The only thing that will be cleaned out of there is a little bit of dead wood. And then so for lot 1, as you go to the back, we have some stone walls there that will help with the grade change. So over to the right there. And so we have an oak, and then we have a bunch of plantings above the wall, and then it comes around where there's an existing tree, and then it goes into it's basically a mix of canopy and understory, going over to where the swale or the retention area is. We have heavier plantings in that area. And the idea is that a lot of these plants are facultative, meaning that they can grow in both wet and dry. And so you'll see that I have red maples in there and things like along that. But the idea is that you want to have both canopy, understory, and shrub layer. And then massing of plants so that people can identify them easily as something that's supposed to be there. And then as we come up through, there's a little bit of a mix of some evergreens with deciduous for both screening and also for vitality in the wintertime, foraging. All those pieces need to be there. So I try to do deciduous throughout the plan as it comes up through the border, screening and the other side of the drive. There's a fair amount of native plant material that we will try to maintain through there. There's a lot of basic like clethra. There's a large grouping of clethra. It's sort of like a stony area in there. So wherever we can identify and tag those, we will keep those because those are gold. And then we want to supplement plant adjacent to them. But all these plants will be positioned. They may just be moved a little bit left or right, depending on whether there's an existing something desirable that's there right now.
Okay, so that's kind of wraps what we're proposing to do with Lot 1. I think the most important thing to recognize is that we tried to maintain consistency with the original subdivision, and the changes that we did make, we felt were intended to either enhance the vegetation that's there, or preserve the vegetation that's there.
So are there questions from the agency on this first lot, I guess?
I have one. Can you go through the decision making as far as the location of the pool and the leaching fields in lot 1? And I guess in lot 2, because it seems like, just looking at the drawings but not knowing anything else, it seems like the leaching fields could be put between the two houses instead of in the back. If you show the plan again, you'll see what I mean. I'm sure there's a decision-making process that went through it, but.
Yes, the original plan had the septic system farther to the south and the pool farther to the west. The decision making to move it over to the northern side was twofold. One, the soil conditions were better there, and two, it didn't, with that move, it didn't change the sloping or anything, any of the grading associated with the lot. So when we moved it over, it didn't change any of the grading in that northwest corner. So we felt that it would not be inconsistent with the approval that was presented at the subdivision stage.
Yeah, I forget what our discussion was back then. But if you look at this lot with lot 2 next to it, that overall plan that we had there in us.
Yeah, the overall plan is sheet 3, I believe.
I'm just looking at the plan, and I don't know, it just seemed like the 2 leaching fields could go, flip 90 degrees and be between the 2 houses rather than closer to the wetland. But there may be engineering reasons why that can't be done.
Yeah, let's zoom in on that a little bit, Nick. Okay, there's a couple of things. One, if you notice the I'll call it the angle of the existing contours.
Yep.
The septic systems have to kind of parallel those existing contours, because the restrictive layers
Okay, that's
mirror
enough.
the.
Yeah, I get it. Okay.
Okay.
And if I remember right from the site walk, the grading is going to be pretty much cut and fill grading. There'll be no fill brought in.
Yeah, that was another goal that we tried right from the beginning, was that much to the developer's disappointment, there's a ton of topsoil here that he could probably farm out, but we tried to maintain pretty much a balance of the material. Sheep pasture road's not a road that we want to be running triaxles up and down, on a regular basis to try and construct this site. So the site, all 3 lots together, which is what the grading will be done as, are pretty much a balance.
Yep. I think he kept referring to the subdivision as like self-sustaining subdivision. He had some.
That's right.
He was using.
Yeah, the engineers, I still speak in vanilla.
Thanks.
Can I have one question? Oh, I'm sorry, Martin, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Erin.
Thanks. My question is just with respect to the stormwater swales there. I know that the dark dashed line is indicating a stormwater easement, but it's not labeled as such on any of these site development plans. And I think that's
Yes,
something
if you look
that
at-
should be updated on each of the site development plans to identify where the stormwater easements are.
I can, it is identified on the lot line revision plan, and it appears that you're correct as I'm looking at page 4. Yes, we can clarify what the lines designate, because they're on the lot line revision map, but we'll identify those.
Thank you.
I'll bet you're going to say the same thing on lots 2 and 3.
Likely. Did you, my only other question on this site development plan, do you have section of your retaining wall? Not necessarily wetlands, but as these are your site development plans, and in your retaining wall, it looks to be 5 feet tall on lot 1.
Yeah, it is going to be, I didn't do a detail of it because I thought it would need to be submitted to the building inspector when it comes time for building permit. But I certainly could, put the detail on here.
Aaron, were you talking about the retaining wall that is the tree well?
Yes.
Yeah, I was curious about that too. Yeah, it's a 5-foot wall. How is that going to be constructed?
It's going to be using native stone from the excavation and from the grading. We're going to be sorting out any existing stone. It's kind of a bony site in some areas, and using the existing material to create the embankment.
I see. Okay. Will there need to be some kind of back drainage on those walls? Fabric and stone?
Certainly can. And if yeah, I can do that with the detail. That's fine.
Well, I'm curious about, because I know that there are setback distances between septic systems and drainage features, such as, footing drains and back drainage for retaining walls. And I'm just concerned that the septic system discharges might get tangled up with the retaining wall drainage features. And I can't make out the scale terribly well here because I don't have the full set of plans in front of me, but I'm just wondering what the distance is between the septic system and that
Well,
retaining
the
wall.
distance between the distance between the septic system and the footing drain is identified there, 25.4 feet. And
No, I guess I meant
required.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, again, I'm blanking on the required distance between septic systems and drainage.
That's 25 feet.
Oh, okay. And it looks like we have a little bit more than 25 feet from the tree well retaining wall per se, and the septic system itself, although it's directly down gradient. I mean.
Yeah, those they do meet the health code.
Okay.
And
yeah.
and the septic systems are in front of the health department as we speak.
Sure. Okay. So you're still waiting for approval from the health department on this?
Yeah, Aaron, you haven't heard anything from Amanda, have you?
No.
Aaron?
No.
I have not either. No, we haven't got a final response back from him.
Okay. And you had said that there were some issues with, either restrictive layers or shallow to groundwater. So therefore you had to engineer these systems, raise them up a bit.
Yep, those are, yep, and they're all in compliance with the health code, yes.
Sure. And that's why we have those slopes in the backyard, because you're importing fill to get those systems up.
Well, the only fill that's being imported, bring that page up just a little more, Nick. The only, if you look down on the, oops.
Sorry.
If you look down on that right-hand side, the cross section, oops. Let's stay right there, Nick. That's good. The only imported material is the septic gravel, which is standard for the engineered system. All the other material that's all just native material from the site.
Oh, I see. This is probably a gravelly knob and where the house sits is a high point and we're just knocking it back.
That's exactly right, yeah.
I see. Okay. And are there any, what's going in as treatment inside those stormwater retention swales?
The swales themselves are just going to be grassed. We're looking for just your general root uptake. And then the landscaping plan does show his landscaping plan actually runs right up through the center of the swale. So
Sure.
all the vegetation that he was talking about being installed in that string that runs east-west actually runs in the swale.
Okay. Thank you. Are these 4-bedroom houses?
This one is what? Go ahead, Mike.
I'm sorry. The main home is 4, yes, but the garage, there's a loft over the garage. And so we're having the septics designed for 5. And we're gonna do an option to put a bathroom up there. So it could be 5. But the septic system will be designed for a 5-bedroom. We'll build the home as a 4 with the option of putting a bathroom above the garage, in-law suite. Yeah.
Okay. And are all 3 wetland, are all 3 septic systems within the 100-foot upland review zone?
I'm going to say yes, but I'm going to have to look at each individual one just to confirm. But let me do this. When we get to lots 2 and 3, we'll, Nick, let's blow up this,
sorry.
the overall. You can blow up the overall plan.
There you go.
Yeah, and let's expand that and let's just make sure. I think lot 3, the septic system is not in the upland review. I think it's in the.
You don't have the 100-foot upland review labeled on your plan.
Yeah, it depends on which sheet you're looking at.
Maybe on the individual lots, we'll see it.
Yeah, on the individual lots, they definitely, you can see it right here. This is the 100-foot line. So that one lies within it.
The 100-foot line is also on the other side of the house, Martin, as you can see from the
Yeah, okay.
other wetland. So it's essentially a small sliver in the center of all 3 lots that is outside of the upland review area.
So I think that, what we tried to do is be consistent as much as possible. And in the areas where we weren't as consistent, where there were areas that we felt we were trying to either preserve existing vegetation or enhance the grades around the property. One of the things that the landscape architect mentioned is that on the east side of the road, there's a significant amount of landscape vegetation being added in that area. When I say road, I meant driveway. That will enhance the for lack of a better term, the buffer between the occupation of people and so on between that and the wetlands.
If the commission remembers, at the time of subdivision, you had concerns about the maintenance of those wetland buffer plantings and had recommended as part of your report to the Planning and Zoning Commission that be maintained through an easement. So that is shown. It's not shown on the site development plans that there is that easement there, that cross easement, but the language was in place at the time of the subdivision to allow the the property owners to maintain that wetland buffer. So that did get
Do you want me to
translated
jump in,
the
Aaron?
approval.
Yeah, so this here is the subdivision plan, and what this is calling for is that there's a access easement in for lots 2 and 3. And then adjacent to that is the landscape maintenance landscape maintenance easement over lots 2 in favor of lots 2 and 3. So we have an easement for access and a separate easement for the landscaping and maintenance of the landscaping. And I'll put that on each lot too.
So I have a question about that, and I know I keep coming back to that. So it's great that it's called out as an easement, but who's going to enforce this? I mean, it's as I said on the sidewalk and saying again, these plantings, the stormwater swale, all of this is such an integral part of stormwater management on these 3 lots. And it's great to call it out as an easement. I don't know. It just, I don't know what the enforcement is on that.
In the,
Mike, can you?
in the original maintenance plan, which should be attached to the lot line revision plan and will be part of the easement language, is the shared driveway in the garden next to it. They have an extensive garden, not just in that area, but around the entire buffer of the property. That will be that will need to be maintained by each individual owner after the CO is presented. But also, we stated that it will be looked at for, I think, a period, I want to say 2 or 3 years. I can't remember exactly what the language is. But it'll be reviewed by Chris on a yearly basis and a letter presented to the Wetlands Commission of the existing conditions of the time of that garden. So, you know, the idea here is to create a natural identifiable buffer that delineates the no disturbance zone, and to create an area where people can come out and use it, whether it be flowers or edible berries or just looking at trees, but a definable buffer that people can come up to that signifies that boundary. You know, I'm hoping that, you know, whoever else buys the homes buys into the character of it. We're going to explain to them in detail, you know, what the improvements are that are made, you know, and we're going to, you know, each lot is going to have to incur part of the landscaping budget. So we're hoping that, you know, we find people that want that want to come down a driveway presented by a native buffer garden and not something that's gonna deteriorate. But we're also, you know, backing that up by a maintenance plan that's has oversight that needs to get reported by you. So it needs to be reviewed by you. And I think I want to say it was 2 years, but it could be 3. But I think at that point, you know, those plants, you know, hopefully within 1 year, you know, should have taken, because they're native and they should be able to establish themselves. And that shouldn't be that big of a deal. But you know, it's going to be an irrigation challenge. But we're going to make sure that whatever we plan is going to survive. We're not going to go out and do this extensive landscaping plan without, you know, being able to establish those plants. You know, I think a big part of it is when we plant them. You know, ideally we would want to do it right about now or in another few weeks. That's probably not going to happen. Yeah, I mean, you know, we're committed to, you know, that plan. The plan is part of the build out, part of what's going to be accepted, hopefully. And you know, we're going to have to honor what we have committed to do there with that maintenance plan. So that maintenance plan is also going to be, you know, part of that commitment.
What does it
Kayla,
mean?
I'm sorry, Joe. I was just going to let you know that you do have the ability to bond for these wetland plantings and require a maintenance bond as well.
Yeah,
to
I mean,
ensure that they survive at least a year.
So I just wanted to touch on that. So, you know, we had already agreed that, you know, we wouldn't be able to get a CO for each individual lot until that landscaping plan around that home is finalized. So, I mean, I would hope that that would be significant enough. I mean, I think that, you know, from what I've seen, we're making a very big effort to bring in actually more native plants and more trees and shrubs than actually what was there. So, I mean, if you count tree for tree, we're actually bringing in more. We're just relocating. You know, a bond is money that could be, you know, more useful to our plants. So, you know, I would just like you to be able to take that into consideration. And I you know, and I think really, I mean, you know, is this you know, have you made other people, you know, hold a bond for landscaping in the past, or is this something new?
I think this commission has in the past. It depends on the project.
Yeah,
We have done bonds.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I mean, I'm hoping the CO is enough kind of weight to make sure that we comply. You know, it's you know, it's definitely it's in my mind, it's enough weight, you know, so.
I think, Mike, what the commission's concerns are not the initial install of the plantings, but the maintenance and insurance that the plants will survive. And that is the reason, you know, after a property transfers for a CO, having the bond is really the only way that the commission can ensure that the plantings are maintained for a portion of time.
Okay. I mean, I would just, you know, I just, in the spirit of, you know, trying to improve an area, you know, we want to encourage this type of development. And, you know, by putting restrictions on it and financial difficulties is one way to just, you know, make it more difficult.
I think part of the problem is that the property has a lot of wetlands. It's not an easy development. You're having to grade in different ways. You're having to squeeze in 3 houses on a little bit of upland. You know, there's a lot going on here. So it's not super straightforward anyway. And you know, you're putting, it's your property, but you want pools and you want big houses, and that it just makes all of this challenging on top of maintaining this landscaping that I think is great. I think it's great to do this type of landscaping, but people, and I guess because I'm older, you know, people are not always going to necessarily, you know, share your, you know, enthusiasm for that. And so, you know, this has been a recurring theme in our discussions, is that enforcing this type of stormwater management and these plantings and these buffers is non-trivial. And having been on this commission for a while and then conservation commission and watched what people do over time, you know, it doesn't always end up how people say they're going to do.
I understand. Let's just try to be amicable about it. You know, I mean, I think, you know, financially, I'm concerned about a bond. I have no idea, you know, what exactly that would be. So, you know, I just would hope that we could, you know, work that out together and have you feel comfortable and and me not so financially restricted from losing that money or having to pay for that bond. It's fine.
What's the terminology mean for a landscape maintenance easement in favor of lot 2 and 3, like over lot 1? It's like, is everybody involved with the maintenance? I've never seen that before.
Yes, that's exactly what it is, that in all three of the areas, that all three of the property owners are responsible for the landscaping in the entire area. We want it all to be homogeneous, for lack of a better term. We don't want one person maintaining and the other people not. We want to be able to have it so that everybody is consistent with maintaining the easement.
It's a commons, as you might think in some communities that they might have a commons, but it also helps build community, get people to work together, talk to each other. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So are we going to do 2 and 3, or should we just schedule these for next month, you guys?
Well, we honestly, we feel like we've been pretty consistent with the subdivision plan. I know that the season is going to be on the developer very shortly. If the commission could see any way to approve tonight with whatever number of conditions they felt comfortable with, that would be great.
Well, I think we're actually receiving it tonight, and we have to schedule it for April.
No.
We've already received it
Oh.
at the last meeting, and then we did the site walk. So we have this meeting and next month, if that happens, to act on this application.
Okay.
Yeah, I would really appreciate it if you guys could vote on it tonight. I mean, I think, we're really trying to make an effort to do a really nice, creative, sensitive project, and it would be great to be able to start the work. We are following very, very close to the subdivision approved plan. If there's any other questions that we can answer in the meantime, we're here.
The subdivision approved plan, I just want to make sure that maybe that we're clear, is the subdivision was approved as a subdivision and you had your spots in place and we got the overall plan. But even at the time, we discussed that you were going to need to come back for each individual lot due to the wetland implications. So It isn't that you got that approved and these are, automatically approved. It is,
I understand,
a two-step process. So I just want to be clear for everyone that just because the subdivision was approved in its form, this is changed and it's each individual lot, looking at it much more carefully than what we did previously.
Can't hear you, Jim.
Thank you. All we're trying to say is that we just tried to be consistent as much as possible. We recognize that, as Aaron will tell you, I'm the town engineer in 4 or 5 different towns, and I basically serve in her position in those applications, and so I know exactly what the process is here and respect it fully, and I understand that now it's a new application, it's a new plot plan, it's a new site plan. We're just trying to say we tried to be consistent so as not to try and, for lack of a better term, pull the wool over your eyes and come up with something, a 5-story building on a 1-acre lot or something.
Yeah.
I think one option would be, as far as moving forward, the commission could ask to have all of the lot, table action on this for now and look at the site development plans for the other 2 lots to see how they may interact. Or you could identify specifics where you have concerns on this particular lot, if you're looking to have the applicant bring you back new information or something additional. Just I mean, you have a few options if it's, if you wanted to look at it more as a whole, or if you wanted to isolate each lot individually. Ultimately, you'll need
If I
3
could, Aaron?
actions, but
Yeah. If I could, Aaron, I would like to, at the very least, explain the 3 lots, and then whatever course of action you feel is most prudent is fine. But I think it's worth the commission's time after walking the site and so on to see what it is we're proposing for the other 2 lots. It will be a lot of the same things that I've already said, so I will try and give you the Cliff Notes version, so that I don't drag it all the way out. But I do think it's worth it to have all 3 of the lots explained to you tonight.
I agree. For what it's worth.
So can I make a suggestion? Aaron? Can I make a suggestion?
I think to the commission that this is how they would like to proceed.
Okay, can I make a suggestion then to the commission that rather than bounce back and forth between applications, maybe if I just ran through the 3 of them, and then in the end, you have to make 3 motions or separate motions for each lot, no matter how or when you do it. But maybe if I just kind of describe the other 2, and so you have a better picture of how the 3 fit together, and have a better understanding of the overall picture.
That's fine with me. What do you got? Are you, the rest of the commission, okay with this?
Yeah, I think so, especially if you can, once you hit 2 and 3, if you can pick the highlights rather than not going over the same thing.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. Okay, so I'm gonna jump to Nick. If we can go to lot number 2. And just for the commission's benefit, you can see how much of a dinosaur I am. I have to have somebody from my office do the technical stuff. I can talk okay, but I can't press a button. All right, so this is lot number 2. It's the central of the 3 lots. A couple of the highlights, if you will, of this is that we did move the property lines. We shifted the northern line southerly a little bit, and we shifted the southern property line northerly a little bit to try and make the property less jagged, for lack of a better term. The house is in generally the same location. It was actually a little bit farther north than it is now, but the driveway is exactly the same location as it was before. And that landscaping trend on the right-hand side of the driveway continues in, I'll use the phrase monolithically, if you will, so that it's continuous right through. We did, let me see if I check my notes. We did move the septic system northerly and the pool southerly. I think we swapped the locations again because of the restrictive layers. We also have another, let's talk about the swale, but it's, what we did with this particular lot is we brought the roof runoff from lots 1 and 2 into the same swale area. In that, so that's located on the north side of this, to the north of this lot. We do also have another tree well. This well is another oak tree that we tried to protect. The wall's a little bit less, I believe. Just check. It's a 6 foot, so it's 6 foot wall. Again, just trying to protect a nice species in that area. The landscaping along that red stripe area that's the grading. Virtually the exact same grading that was done as part of the subdivision. And on the very bottom of the page, there's the swale, the bioswale, if you will, for for lot number 3. You know, without being totally redundant, I think what is, you know, what we try to do again here was, you know, try and make the property, develop the property consistent with what the subdivision was, so that there wasn't any surprises, if you will. That's really the point I'm trying to make, Madam Chairman, is that when I mention that, it's just that I'm not trying, we did not want to surprise you with some off the wall new development basically just because you approved a subdivision. We tried to be consistent, so we just didn't want any surprises. And then the vegetation on the west side of the property, where the you know, that landscaping is consistent again. The landscaper tried to make it you know, monolithic, so to speak, that runs the full length of the 3 properties. That septic system again is dictating the grading on this site because of the restrictive layers. It would have been nice if this property was not quite as high and a little bit higher on the sides, but that's just not the way the grades work. So that's kind of what we're trying to do there. Obviously, I've got to identify the easements, as Aaron has mentioned, and let's see, and try and get some language for you for the landscaping. Just don't tell me I was on mute.
No. That would be sad. Are there any?
Could you say that again, please?
Are there any questions for this lot? I know you're going to quickly move on.
No, I don't, Gail.
No questions.
Okay.
All right, and then we'll jump to lot number 3 then. Just so you know exactly how much of a dinosaur I am, I put my notes in red pen on the yellow pad. Aaron, there are some people on this board that used to do that. I can tell that there's some that did. Okay, so on lot 3, we increased the size of the lot a little bit by just straightening out that top property line. Again, trying to make the lots a little bit more consistent in size. This lot has a bioswale in the northern side. It picks up the roof leaders. The roof leaders are connected to the bioswales.
I'm listening.
The footing drains will discharge freely to the uplands. The house the house was moved a little bit northeasterly on this site to get it a little bit farther away from the wetlands. The septic was moved to the west to try and, again, it's just, you know, this is the way the contours were fighting us and trying to you know, get the grades to work for the septic systems. There are 3 tree wells on this property because of that one. There's another specimen tree in that area. There are several specimen trees in the center of the back of this piece, and then there's another area of what we considered high value vegetation on the very direct south of the property. So we have an elongated tree well there. One of the questions that did come up is on the southwest side of the property. You can see that the buffer lines, the 50-foot and 40-foot buffer lines, upland review lines, travel off of the parcel. the wetland systems here is actually twofold. The wetland system on the left travels off to the left. The wetland system to the right travels off to the right. They don't loop back together. Sometimes, you know, the wetland will loop together on an adjacent property. But the adjacent property in this area is actually somebody's yard and somebody's house. There's a house about where it says invert chart on the bottom right hand. There's a house located right there, and where it says upland review area, that's actually somebody's yard. So you know, the tree wells and the grading in that area don't really project towards the wetlands as much as they project towards this other person's yard. One of the other things that we did on the southeast corner of the parcel, originally we had the grading plan right all the way down to the 50-foot, 40-foot buffer area. Mike wanted us to pull that grading back because there's a significant amount of specimen vegetation there that he wanted to maintain. And so we pulled that area back and you know, just to try and keep the contours the same, the grading the same, and the vegetation undisturbed.
Jim, it looks like on the landscaping plan that the landscaping is going to follow the toe of the slope as opposed to
Yes.
heading out straight towards with the, you know, that 40-foot upland review line.
That's my
So-
question too.
I think it actually does connect to make that, the planting plan at least shows a connection of the buffer at the base of the slope.
Can we look at the planning plan for lot 3?
Yes. So you could see this area here.
Yeah, so we pulled in the planting to still create that sense of buffer that's contiguous around all 3 properties. And then to steward those areas behind there with all native plant materials that will also enhance screening that's desired in those areas. In that dog leg section down there, there's quite a number of trees and boulders, and it's actually a nice section of the landscape. And so that's why we just pulled in the plantings just a little bit there. And there's a lot of desirable spice bush all throughout there, and we want to keep that and then supplement it with additional plantings.
So that line, I guess to the west of the wetland flags, what's that, the 50-foot review line?
Yeah.
No, the one further down.
Yeah,
down to
the heavy jagged line,
Yeah,
the
that
heavy
one, that
jagged line is the
Yeah, those lines represent the 50 to 40.
40, okay.
Yep. So I put them in there so that you could see them, and then where the plantings relate to that. Some of the plantings come.
If we could, I don't mean to interrupt, but if we could expand this corner a little bit, because on my paper copy, there's a line there that I think is difficult to see on this plan. If you can just get
This
it's
is the
pretty vague.
extent of the plan.
And if we could just expand that lower corner, that would be great.
What, you mean zoom in?
Yes, I think.
Yeah, zoom into that corner.
Okay,
there. I'm
sorry, Jim. I
Yeah. Yeah, that you can now see at this level that there is a very faint line that yeah, there we go. Thank you. That's the limit of the grading. The heavier line is the 40-foot offset line. And originally we had the grading all the way out to the offset line. Mike and Chris identified some significant vegetation in that area, and that's why we pulled that grading line back.
This line is also the limit of lawn.
Yes.
Potentially, depending on the homeowner, what we want to do is we want to encourage them to supplement these and come further out to create have depth in areas, and then going back to the original buffer in other areas. So they'll have a more natural feel. Depends on how the property owner would want to use that area. They may not even want to have lawn in there if it were my world.
Yeah, I think it's important to notice that, you know, any of the, we couldn't tag all of the trees, but we did tag a bunch that are identified as T. So in all those areas, that's where the grading will stay existing, and we'll keep those existing trees there. So.
Yeah, and between 2 and 3, we were able to change the grading to save a bunch of trees and keep the soils as you come from lot 2 into 3 on both sides there. There'll be existing trees saved, and then the existing soils undisturbed, which will make it much better for regen and new plantings.
All right, Aaron, just I gotta make my pitch here. I think just for the record, you know, I understand that this is there's a lot of wetlands on this site. We're not touching any of them. We're staying, you know, we're staying as away as much as possible. You know, it's our responsibility to look at reasonable, prudent alternatives. We had alternatives where the driveway came in from Wildwood, you know, but they had to cross the wetlands to use that, so we eliminated that. And we also had options where we had 3 individual driveways coming in, but we felt that was unnecessary disturbance. So we did try and look at you know, prudent alternatives. We did try to identify a plan that was sensitive to the property and sensitive to the wetlands without you know, intruding on them in any way, and providing some you know, some vegetative restructuring, if you will, to try and offset the impact of the development.
Do any of the agency members have, now that we've seen, you know, kind of gone through all 3 lots, any questions about any of the aspects why we have everyone here?
I was able to pick up the plans this morning and look at them during the day. So, and I really didn't write down any major concerns. So I think I'm okay.
This is Martin Brogy. I've got just a couple of thoughts and comments. The plans indicate that New England Environmental was the entity that did the wetland delineation on this. I assume that was associated probably with the previous subdivision. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You know, with in my experience, I mean, and as many of you have acknowledged, you know, this is, you know, we've got wetlands on both sides of the proposed development here, within, you know, very close proximity. All of the wetland systems all of the septic systems are at least partially within the regulated area. And, I made a note to myself earlier, and I know, Jim, that you mentioned, the feasible and prudent alternatives, and you talked about them, but I think on a site like this, when the wetlands are so close to the proposed development, that really taking a good hard look at feasible and prudent alternatives and going through that exercise in a very sincere way is really an important demonstration to the commission. A couple of thoughts I had was, can we pull those septic systems, further back away from the wetlands? I mean, some towns, flat out say, if we're within 100 feet of wetlands, that's out of bounds, even though it passes health code. Some wetlands commissions are more stringent than that. And now we've got, all three of them are sort of challenging that. So I think it's kind of a tight site given the wetland conditions there, and the feasible alternative exercise is really an important one. And also, in that same vein, given the proximity of the wetlands to the proposed improvements, I mean, input from your environmental consultant, the delineating wetland consultant, have they had a chance to look at these plans and chime in their opinion, weighing the natural resources against the potential impacts associated with the development? Again, I think given the proximity that kind of information is important to the commission to consider. Again, yeah, it's tough to look at something that's as close to the wetlands without really getting input from the client's wetland consultant and hearing more about the resources there specifically. On lot 3, I noticed that, the issue with the retaining wall for a tree well, and I think that identifying those trees is an awesome thing, and you guys get credit for that, and I like the looks of the landscaping plan. I think it's very robust. But on lot 3, I think that retaining wall might be very close to the septic system. I think it might challenge the 25-foot distance. Again, I don't have a scale and plan in front of me, but I think that's worth taking a look at. And also the swale between lots 2 and 3 is pretty close to that septic system again. And I just have concern for, the bottom of that septic system, the leachate coming out and possibly entering any back drainage from that retaining wall and or that swale and then ending up in the wetlands. So when we're getting that close to wetlands, I think it's really important to take a look at, the cuts and the structures on the proposed drainage that are near them. So again, that all speaks to feasible and prudent alternatives for the project. I don't know if the houses can be moved closer to the driveways. I mean, it's a pretty private setting as it is, and the landscaping provides that as well. And maybe pulling those septic systems as far as you possibly can away from the wetlands without, getting too close to footing drains and that sort of thing would be my recommendation. I don't really have a sense of the soil. It sounds like we're fairly shallow to water out here. We've got some dense soil. It's not sandy, gravelly soil that we typically see near these tidal wetlands. Looks like it's got some density to it. And again, my thought for septic leachate is be getting down and hitting those dense layers and hitting that shallow water and getting into the wetlands. So the setback, I think, from the wetlands with regard to the septic systems is pretty important. That's all I have.
All right. Lee or John, do you have any comments?
No, I like Martin's though, and I'm curious whether or not Jim has thought about that and if he can offer any thoughts on what Martin just said. Do you need more time, or have you already considered some of the things that he just brought up?
Well, the septic systems are designed according to the code. So the separation distance from the wall and the separation distance from bioswale area is in compliance with the state regulations. I'm looking over here because my plans are on the desk.
That's
so you'll have
okay,
to
that's okay.
Bear with me. And there's a fairly significant, especially to the bioswale area. There's a pretty big distance there. That's well over 25 feet. And that's in excess of the requirement for the septic system. But I can certainly evaluate the comments that he has and see if there's anything that we could do to enhance it.
Well, my only other comment was, I think I guess, is at the south side where all the grading is and the retaining walls. I like the planning plan. And I assume that's going to be part of the development drawings eventually. But on that west side, I think the way the development's coming together, I don't think there's a lot of potential for people to encroach on the wetlands, but I'm not so sure about on the north side along the driveway. So, and even in that corner that we just looked at on lot 3. So I'm leaning towards, I'm thinking that we need some kind of method to make sure that doesn't, that the homeowners that they respect that buffer area and it doesn't end up encroaching into the wetlands. And, I don't know, I think in the past John Mathau will know, I think we've been required wetland markers. And maybe that's something that will, make sure everybody knows what's going on over there. So,
does the town have delineators?
John, how did we do it in the past? Do you remember? John Mathau?
Markers, some above ground and some planted in the ground, like a monument. So you could identify them and the property owner could identify them.
You could post
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, I don't have an issue. I don't have an issue with that. Our goal here, is to make sure that buffer is supposed to be that signifier, that no disturbance area. But if you feel like, it actually, like, we can actually delineate the wetlands with some sort of monument, that's fine. I mean, this is our goal, is to, is to make sure that people understand where they are.
Yeah, and I'm not sure whether it's practical or whether it actually even would work, but, we've done that in the past, and I think it was in smaller areas, not along a long driveway like we have here. So I'll leave that up to.
Can I press the button instead, or can I just raise my hand there? I'd like to make a suggestion. When I was the town engineer in Beacon Falls, we used to have just use cedar posts with a sign on it, and you could space the cedar posts along the whatever interval you wanted along the edge of the driveway with the sign that just says wetland buffer area, don't encroach, and that could also go with the toe of slope. It doesn't need to go all the way to the wetlands area, because it's not even, if you look at lot 3, that southeast corner of lot 3, I would put delineators at the edge of what I'm going to call the lawn area.
Right.
And have that be where the delineation goes, over on I'm sorry, Nick, where the 40 contour is over on put the delineators along those contours there. You don't want them to go, you don't want to put the delineators all the way out where the wetlands lines are, because then it's too late.
That's correct.
Already encroached right up to the edge. So I think that, something like a cedar post with a sign on it or something would be significant enough to, at whatever interval the commission felt, was appropriate.
Aesthetically, I think in-ground concrete 6-inch high element would probably work better so that it doesn't stick out, but you hit it with your lawnmower and you can like don't go into these areas, and they're more permanent. I have a feeling that cedar posts, they do eventually rot too, but also just the signage on a cedar post may not be as aesthetically getting people to connect. They may feel disconnected because it's like a note where you don't want people to connect with nature. So, but I'm much preferential to permanent in the ground delineation.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I think some examples of what municipalities have done is, as Jim has indicated, I'm sure that we have done in Madison as well. I know some of my experience also in Guilford, the wetland boundary itself, they're triangular metal signs that you can delineate the actual wetland boundary. And I think that that's absolutely beneficial on these properties.
Yeah.
And I think another instance where we've seen signage is delineating a conservation easement. I have not seen any larger signs necessarily indicating a buffer planting area. So, that's not something that we would stock here to be able to provide to the applicant. And I don't, this was not designated as conservation easement area. At the time of subdivision, the applicant did do their open space set aside was a fee in lieu set up instead. But I think the idea of marking the wetland boundary is a good visual marker for property owners. And these easements are also, just for reference, they are included in the deeds of the properties. That is a requirement as part of the subdivision, when there is an easement. But I think as far as long-term maintenance of these, it's just as any other drainage structure or, a detention pond or anything, you can make all the efforts to require restrictive covenants on land records or things like that for maintenance, upfront bonds. But the long-term is like a rain garden. Enforcement is challenging, and unless we're out monitoring, and typically for single families beyond a certificate of occupancy, we're not out monitoring the individual lots. A lot of our enforcement is complaint based. So Kayla, you're right that it is it's very hard to ensure that these natural stormwater maintenance areas and buffers are maintained in perpetuity. It's challenging.
Yeah, I mean, I see less maintenance with the swales than I do with an underground dry well system personally. When those fail, there's a lot of work to be done, and they tend to clog and then overflow. And from what I've seen, it's just more of a maintenance issue. And when we first started talking about the swales, Chris was really the driver on this, and it's just the disbursement of the rainwater over a larger area to have it filter back into the groundwater is just it's just a better system that is less maintenance. All that we need to do is make sure that that grading stays the same. So it's really, there'd be no reason why an elevation would change. But again, I mean, Chris designed these, one of the aspects of this too is to make people want to connect with nature during times where they normally don't go outside. It will be a garden feature. And we're hopeful that people will come out and kind of look at, how these areas disperse the water. And, so this is one of the intents, is to, capture that buyer that really wants, that type of lifestyle. But like you said, I mean, it's, things, it'll be in the easement that they need to take care of it. And, it's all the owners are connected. All the homes are connected to each one of them has an easement by both. So they're both obligated to, make sure that they're working properly. Which means, all you really need to do is make sure, if a big tree falls in it, you got to just go and clean it out, just move it, cut it out. Now, that's the beautiful thing about it. I mean, if a dry well or some sort of French drainage system breaks, you're talking about a lot of excavation and a lot more work to maintain or repair those systems.
So every house will have a Doug Tallamy book, Bringing Nature Home. And the idea of having people have to share responsibilities means that one or two of them are more likely to be connected to ideas of conservation. And so it allows for a conversation in that small little community. But education is also, part of the program.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think I have to say too, my wife and I's lot is very similar to this. It has a lot of wetlands on it, and we have on the west end of our lot, we have a common driveway that feeds 6 lots above us. And so we have a similar type maintenance easement. And I got to say, all of our neighbors are very easement proud. They do a great job of all the landscaping around the easement. So, I think we have to be cautious, but I think we also have to understand a lot of people are house proud, and they're probably not going to let it go, for lack of a better word, for what it's worth.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Well, it's late again. Second time this week, not as late. So our choices are to act on this, or I think we need more. Aaron or anybody can. It sounds like there were still some questions. Martin had brought up some points that Mr. Galligan was going to maybe investigate.
I mean, I think from a feasibility study, Jim and I and Chris have gone over this thing, 50 different ways. And, we're trying to propose, what we really think is the best alternative. We did meet with John and Aaron last week and, just hashed out a couple of different areas that, they had questions about and adjusted things slightly because of those, because of that meeting. And, I really do think that this is the best that you're going to see from the site, and I'm hoping for, I'm hoping that you guys can see it, a lot of thought, a lot of time, engineering, landscape designing, A lot of energy went into this final product here that you're seeing.
This is Martin, and I hear you, Michael, what you're saying. I do see the the landscape design is nicely considered, and I certainly see the value of and the need for the swales between the lots, considering the grade changes. And I think the grass swales to the riprap outfalls are suitable for that, particular application. Again, I guess in my mind, I think it's a matter of just coming back with some more information to make a little bit better of a demonstration that you've exhausted all possibilities, that those septic systems are as far away from the wetlands as possible, and that the delineating soil scientist and environmental consultant that originally delineated this property as a subdivision has had a chance to look and review and comment on the specific redevelopment plans for these 3 lots. I think it's very clear that, we've got wetlands on both sides. We've got septic systems, although they may meet the health code, they are still pretty close to the wetlands, and there's 3 of them all in a row. It's not like there's just one that's sticking out like a sore thumb. All 3 of them, I think, are sort of challenging the envelope of really being feasible and from a variety of perspectives. And I think that, just for the record, I think the record could be stronger on these 3 lots. This is just my opinion. And I think you guys probably have the capacity of providing some additional information to bolster the record to help the commission make a more consistent decision on the applications.
So we do have a letter from Rich Snarsky. He has reviewed the subdivision and had submitted a letter in the subdivision plan that was approved.
He's not the environmental scientist listed on your plans. And again, that was for the subdivision and not for the specific 3 lots that are proposed here.
Rich Snarsky is the only soil scientist that's been on that property.
Maybe the plans
New
are
England, New England
Yeah.
Environmental Services is his company.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought they were out of New York somewhere. Okay.
No, that's
Yeah,
Rich
no,
Snarsky.
so
Yeah, usually it's an individual person, and often there's a title block on the plans that says soil scientist delineated. He signs it, says that the wetlands shown on the plans are substantially correct, and those should be
Yeah.
We do-
provided
we
in
do-
the-
Martin,
in the-
Rich Snarsky did provide a letter indicating, it's my understanding that he had flagged this wetland at an earlier date, and he provided a letter on the record at the time of the subdivision. He did not sign the subdivision map. However, he did provide a letter indicating that that was his wetland delineation. I don't believe
Okay.
he had any further involvement in the development.
Okay,
plans, though.
yeah. So, good, that's good. I mean, he's a solid guy, obviously, but yeah, if he could, take a look at this proposal and provide any comment with regard to wetland impacts and any suggested mitigation, I think that would be really useful and helpful, and enable the commission to make a maybe more informed decision.
Okay, so that sounds like we have one person leaning towards, or definitely would like to revisit this and see more information next month. Is the rest of the commission agency okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. Joe, you're okay?
Based
So,
based on the new plans coming in today and all of the comments by the commission, I'm okay with continuing.
Okay, and John John Matthew, you're okay as well?
I
Okay.
agree with
Do we need to formally do this again?
Sounds like it. I move that we table applications 2206, 2207, and 2208 until the next meeting to allow the applicant to provide the additional information that we just discussed.
I'll
I second.
Oh, Joe can second.
Yep, I'll second.
Any other comments? Okay, all in favor of
Aye.
this motion?
Aye.
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 And nobody's opposed, nobody abstained. Okay, so I'm sorry, that's not I very clearly understand that's not what you were hoping to hear. But hopefully we can look over these adjusted plans. You can get us a little more information and we can finish up next month.
Can't hear you, Jim.
They should wear a dunce cap. One quick question, Aaron, on the lot line revision. Can we drop off that application tomorrow?
Yes, please check your dates for revisions. I don't believe you referenced the original subdivision.
Yep.
Thanks.
You've only said that 3 times. You think I'd catch on by now.
Every time it's a
All right,
new.
Very good, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, well, thank you. And thank you. And I will say, I appreciate your vision that for this development. And hopefully we can hammer out all these details. So we'll see you guys next month.
Thank you.
All right, we have 2 section 13s. One was, well, septic repairs. And I guess John can quickly tell us about them.
Yeah, we had 2 administrative approvals for sanitary repairs. And Aaron, if you would please, if you could just pull up 714 Durham Road. Application, what is that? 21-40.
Sure, John.
Yeah, I think at the very end of the application, there's the sanitarian has a little schematic on a GIS that is graphic enough to save us some time.
Let's see here. Hold on.
Yeah, well, you're not going to make heads or tails out of that, but that's a Finkelday's sketch. So here, this is the blue is where the septic tank and the pump chamber were originally. They are within 75 feet of the existing well. So a new buyer came in, bought the property. The home inspector noticed that. The sanitary and health director actually would have to move that in order to occupy the dwelling for the new owner. She had to move and comply with the 75 feet. So she moved it to where Aaron has the cursor now. Winds up being a little, it's no closer to that wetland than it was previously. The new one is an H20, it's all H20 loading and they're sealed. The application makes a reference that the work is going to include the leaching field, which is sort of along that 120 contour there, where Aaron has the cursor. That's not moving at all. That's staying exactly where it was. So it was an error on the application when they said that they were going to install a new H20 septic tank and leaching field, just the H20 loading tank and pump chamber. And that's, that was pretty much, that had to be done in order for the dwelling to comply with the health code. So I did that as a Section 13 administrative approval. Questions?
Nope. I don't have any.
Nope, I don't think.
Okay.
No.
The second one is, and we kind of, I know I talked briefly with KLO about this, and we tried to sort of try something new, but it's met with resistance. But this is the 99 Deepwood Drive, which pretty much is a subdivision that was built on fill, in the wetlands back probably in the late 60s. So this system was failing. Joe pointed out a month ago or so that the house was unoccupied, so there was no rush and no urgency to repair the system. But you can't occupy the house until you repair the system. So there was, it's sort of like a catch-22. Do you have are you looking at the site plan, or should we bring that up, Aaron? Yeah, thank you. This is Roger Numagut's plan. He's a professional engineer, designed the entire system. The option, he had two options. One was to put, this is further away actually from where it was. You can see where there's a leader there, and it says the existing well was in the front. That well had to be relocated to comply with the health code for the system. But the system really had no other place to go than here. This was the best soil. It's closer to the road. It's further away from the wetlands. The tanks are sealed, the pump chamber. The other alternative was to cross the stream with the system and go to their property. Let's just assume that the top of the page is the north to the east on the other side of the wetland, which I think everyone agreed was much more impact on the wetlands than just moving it to where Roger has it at this point. So, I felt comfortable doing that administratively also.
Okay.
I think that's fine.
Thank you.
And that's,
Appreciate
Deepwood
it.
is, that whole area up there is tough, just tough.
And these keep failing, they were all built in the 60s and the 70s when before, wetlands, came, and, they're just, the water table's coming up, the soils are getting worse, it's spongy, and they're failing.
Yeah.
So at least the systems now are compliant and they're on suitable fill and sand. So seems like the best of the worst.
Well, I think that's good. Okay, well, thank you for going through that.
I would just like to take one more second and just welcome Martin Brogy to the agency. Welcome, Martin. I'm glad from what I've experienced tonight, we're going to be happy to have you on the agency.
Yeah, thank you. That was all I was going to say too, is it's great to have a new member, and thank you. You had, for your insightful, thoughtful comments. It's been
great.
Fun.
I got a couple questions before we hang up. The application for 45 or whatever it was, the Wildwood Avenue subdivision referral. What meeting did we? If I wanted to go back and look at the stuff they submitted with the material that they submitted with the subdivision, what meeting would I go to? And because I didn't even think to go back and look at soils reports and stuff from that meeting. And I'm wondering whether or not we should bring some of that stuff forward into these applications if it's going to be part of it, or just refer us back to that earlier meeting? It doesn't.
So it was in November.
November? Okay.
Yep. And, Rich Snarsky had a letter. The letter is short. So the letter just says he delineated the wetland boundary, marked with pink flags, numbered 1 through 116.
Well, I can go back and read it.
Yeah, well, it's like 2 paragraphs, his letter. But yeah, it's at least I'm just looking through my files. Oh, no.
But it sounds like we had some discussion about the application, and so it's probably in the meeting minutes too, right? It's probably.
Yeah, so it looks like it first came in October, and then we saw it again in November.
Okay, you take better
We could
notes
send
than
you
me.
those minutes if that's easier. You could just,
Right, they're probably on the web, on our,
Yeah, they are.
on the town site, as long as I just wanted to map to the right meeting.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so yeah,
Right.
October, November
Okay,
is where most of that information is.
good, thank you.
Okay, anything before we sneak out of here before 10?
Just made it.
Very, very close. All right, I'll entertain a motion. Our last
Motion to adjourn.
I second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.